Okay, calm down.
You debated Adrian Zenz. There was a Harvard-hosted debate, and the debate was whether or not the Chinese system of government is better than the American system. We're going to get into the substance of that debate, but first, can you tell us about who Adrian Zenz is?
Sure. So Adrian Zenz is a German researcher with quotes around researcher. He works for the Victims of Communism Memorial Foundation, which is an organization.
The victims of, what is it? The victims of
the Victims of Communism Memorial Foundation,
which is something Bill Clinton started.
It's yes, I mean, it was set up by Congress as basically an anti-communist propaganda shop. So, you know, that's informs a lot of his research and his takes. And him personally and his organization are really at the origin of the Uyghur genocide claims on the data around it, if it can be called that. Yeah, he's I guess he's quite famous in China circles for his data. I think the Reason did actually a pretty good article on this, on specifically one of his most important claims, which is one of the key data to justify the existence of genocide, which is that 80% in 2018, 80% of all net added IUD intrauterine devices placements in China were performed in Xinjiang. You know, it's been that specific number has been repeated by a number of you know, government officials, newspaper, and so on. Understood as well, 80% of all IUDs that were placed in China that year were placed on women in Xinjiang. That's crazy. That proves that they're trying to you know, stop Uyghurs from having children. But actually, that's an accounting trick. That's not what net added IUD means. When you calculate the actual number based on the same raw data that Adrian Zenz uses, you find that the number of IUDs placed on women in China that were placed on women in Xinjiang that year was only 8%. So literally an order of magnitude less. So he plays around with the data like that to push his narrative, inventing new numbers like net added IUD that they're actually meaningless, but make it sound like there is something very very troubling going on. That's a big part of his shtick.
Can you talk about what you argued in this debate, which is interesting? I watched the debate. I recommend it. Yeah.
Sure. So it was a debate on basically which system is the better system, the Chinese or the American, on delivering liberty, prosperity and stability for their people, and there was a vote at the end, and quite incredibly, I won the debate, which is a tall order, winning a debate at Harvard University, arguing that the Chinese system is better at delivering liberty. But I guess my arguments on this was that in the West we've come to have a very you know, somewhat skewed understanding of liberty, where we view it as only individual liberty, when there is actually a broader understanding of liberty. So for instance, one key initiative that the Chinese government has made is their anti-poverty drive, which is very enough. I've traveled all over China. Literally, the whole population is extirpated from extreme poverty. And I argued in the debate that that's actually an important measure of liberty. Who can argue that you know, poor people are free. When you're poor, you're literally a slave to your condition, right? China, you can look at the data as the more than any other countries, especially the US or France, to extirpate people out of poverty. Or there is also freedom from fear. China is a very safe country. As a woman, you can walk anywhere in China in the middle of the night wearing a miniskirt. You will never be annoyed. Whereas that's not exactly the case in most Western cities. So there are a number of measures of liberty where actually China fares a lot better than the West. But I guess my biggest point also in the debate is, and it comes back to what we were saying earlier, it doesn't quite make sense to compare both systems, because one system, the American system, is universalist. So basically they say, we're a system for the whole world. We want to convert, we think our system is the best possible system, and we think all countries should adopt it. Whereas the Chinese system specifically says, no, our system is very much adapted to our own history, our own context, geopolitical context, economic context, and so on and so forth. And it wouldn't make any sense for any other country to adopt our system. So the comparison is not quite doesn't quite make sense, because there is literally no chance that any other country will adopt the Chinese system, because it's so uniquely Chinese.
I also wanted to know what you say to people who, I hear this quite frequently. People are like, well, China wants to dominate the world. If we're up to them, we'd all be living under their system. You hear this from people who are not idiotic. I mean, maybe definitionally you could say they're idiotic because they think that, but it shocks me how much people who fancy themselves as smart will say stuff like that.
I think maybe also part of the blame can be put on the Chinese for that, because if there is one thing that the Chinese, contrary to many assumptions, many claims of malign Chinese influence and so on, the Chinese are actually terribly bad at propaganda. Explaining what they're about. It's really shocking how bad they are about telling the China story to the world. So you're only ever exposed to one side of the conversation. The Chinese side of the conversation is literally inaudible to the world, because they tell it in such a way that no one listens to them, basically. So when you only have one side of the conversation, it's very, very hard for people, even well-meaning people, to understand China, because they only have that. They only are exposed to that. On really understanding the Chinese side, actually it takes going to China, spending years there to try to comprehend the culture, mingling with Chinese people, and so on. No one does that. I mean, very few people have the time to do that. So yeah, I think that's the key issue.